Hello, you're listening to Over the Oxer podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians. Welcome to this week's podcast, and I'm absolutely over the moon to welcome Sue Hill. Now, I've known Sue for a long time. She's a Havening Techniques Practitioner, but she's also trained in NLP, hypnosis and EFT. And she's currently in the final stages of becoming a Havening Techniques Practitioner Trainer. She helps her clients to do lots of things, reduce anxiety, overwhelm, and get rid of emotional triggers using this very gentle, effective technique that calms the nervous system and creates lasting change. Sue's focus is really simple: helping people feel better fast, giving them tools they can use for life, and making Havening accessible to as many people as possible. So she's going to be a worldwide sensation, I know. So we know then that you have a really strong mindset background. Tell us about your horsey background a little bit.
I fell in love with horses. I think I was born loving horses. I was one of 5 children, so money was a bit scarce back then. But by the age of 12, I think Mum said, she sent me on this outward bound type course in Wales.
Yeah.
And she said, if you get on okay with the pony trekking, you can have riding lessons. So that was it. My lifetime's ambition was to do my BHSAI, which I did at the age of 18. Complete anticlimax, because I'm like, what can I do now? I bought my first horse at the age of 18, and I've been a horse owner ever since, which is quite a few decades now. Qualified as a saddle fitter in 2003, I think it was, and spent over 20 years as a saddle fitter until, sadly, physical problems meant that I couldn't just stand out for long enough to do a decent job. So I had to retire from that a couple of years ago, which was a bit sad. But I've got 2 lovely horses, 2 big horses. Don't ride an awful lot, but we do groundwork with them and just enjoy having them as part of our family. Truly blessed.
Lovely. I know you've got a beautiful setup as well. It looks so idyllic where you've got them.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, really nice place. So coming back to the mindset stuff and the Havening, how did you discover it, and what made you fall in love with it so much?
It was actually a real chance thing. I spoke to Becky Chapman from Ashton Equestrian Centre, who's my favourite instructor in the whole world, apart from Mark Rashid. Got to give Mark a plug. And I'd done some confidence work with her, and this was years ago, and it was very successful. She was using tapping, and I was really impressed with that. And I've struggled with weight my whole life. And I thought, I just wonder if Becky could help use those techniques to help me lose weight. So I called her and asked the question, and she said, no, she didn't go down that route, but she'd seen online a chap was asking for volunteers to take part in a weight loss study using Havening. So I volunteered. He said he'd got enough volunteers at that point, but he said he would add me in. So we started working together. We worked together for about 6 months, and then his trial ended. It was very limited, but it had a really good effect on me. And then I wanted more, so I did 4 sessions with Steve Travers, who's quite a seriously good Havening practitioner and trainer in Ireland. So impressed. I thought, I love this so much. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to help other people in the way that I've been helped. So I signed up for his training course, and within 3 months had qualified as a Havening practitioner. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now, helping lots of people. The fantastic thing about it is you do so much work on yourself while you're doing the training that, I came out of that a completely different person. It's fantastic. And so that's how I came into Havening. And now I'm training to become a trainer. Well, I've done the training, just need to do my first training course, which is coming up in February. And if the assessors are happy with that, then I'll be signed off and qualified as a trainer. And the purpose for that is to spread this amazing modality. It's easy, it's simple, it's effective, it's fast, it's permanent. It's just fantastic. Can't recommend it highly enough.
I love your passion for it. I love your passion. They should have you on the advertisements, because I think you could sell it very, very well. So Havening is now your main career, if you like, but you originally came from a very different kind of career path, didn't you? Where did you come from and why did you pivot?
Absolutely. So my main job, even though I did the saddle fitting, that was always a part-time job. I qualified as an accountant, and it's scary to say it was over 28 years ago. That makes me feel so old. But I've worked as an accountant. That's been my main career, and actually still is throughout my adult life. And it's been great because it's given me a really good income, and it means I can have a nice property and the horses and do all this training, which has cost me thousands and thousands of pounds. Training's not cheap. So it's I've lost my thread a little bit there.
So where are you up to now with the Havening and your old career, if you like? Okay. Are you pivoting completely over to Havening?
So as an accountant, this might seem a really strange leap to go into Havening and this kind of coaching and counselling role. But I think the work I did as a saddle fitter was kind of along those lines. People would come to me because they had a problem. They had a problem with their saddle. Usually it was a problem rather than routine checks, sadly. And my job was to go out, take a case history, find out what's been going on, try and find the cause, and then offer a solution. And that has got such an amazing synergy with the work that we do as a coach and a counsellor that I felt my slip into that role was actually fairly easy. I'd been fairly well prepared because of the work I'd done. And I think that's what I really enjoy is talking to people and trying to find what the root of their problem is. And it's quite often in a place that's very surprising. I've had some amazing revelations myself when I've been working with other people, and you just think, oh my goodness, that's why I am like that.
Yeah.
And then you can change it. It's incredible.
Yeah. So for anyone that's not heard of Havening, can you tell us what it is in a nutshell?
I'll try. It's very simple. It's a psychosensory technique. It's 3 simple movements. What happens when you use these movements is that chemical changes happen in the brain, and without getting too scientific, it makes changes in the way that memories are stored in the brain, which allows us to actually detach emotions from memories. So when you've done a Havening process using one of the clearing techniques, there are multiple techniques, you'll retain the memory, but your reaction to the memory will be different.
Okay, so more neutral towards what happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did a session this week with a lady, bless her heart. She was crying. That one thing she wanted to clear, her mother had passed away, and she said she was holding her hand when she passed away, and she was crying as she was telling me this story. And she said, it's a lovely memory, but I just get so choked up. So we did, do you know what? 5 minutes it took. And at the end of it, she'd gone from a 10 out of 10 on a scale of distress, down to 0 in 5 minutes. And then she was telling me the story again, and she said, I can't believe I'm telling you the story that I sat by my mother's bed and held her hand as she died, and I'm smiling at the memory, and I'm happy that I was there for her. And it no longer chokes me up. And, it's such a privilege to be able to help people get through a situation like that. That had happened 15 years ago. So for 15 years, every time she thought about that memory, she would suffer the same distress.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So what's happening in the brain and the body during havening, and what enables it to be so rapid?
First of all, the brain isn't broken. And I really want to stress that the brain is doing exactly what it's programmed to do. So if you have a scare, for instance, and event havening is the foundation of havening techniques. So if you have an event that's scary, say you get held up at gunpoint in a bank, God forbid, and the robber is wearing a black and red striped mask. You're a teenager. It all ends happily, but you don't even remember that it's happened 30 years later. It's such a distant memory. You know, nobody got hurt. The police came in quickly, arrested the robber. And then 30 years later, it's Halloween and you see a child in a black and red striped mask and your brain goes, uh-oh, because it's remembered everything around that event, not just the gun. It remembers the robber. It remembers what the robber is wearing, the time of day, the weather, the smell of the wood in the bank, and all kinds of things are stored with that memory. And then if the brain finds any suggestion of anything that reminds your brain of that event, it's going to set up alarm bells. Prepare yourself. This was a dangerous, life-threatening situation in the past, and it could be again. Now, if your first memory was with a lion and you meet another lion, you want your brain to say, get the heck out of there because this is dangerous. But when it starts reacting to things like a child in a black and red striped mask, it's actually not helpful. The brain's become oversensitive. It can happen really, really quickly. Like I said, with this lady I was dealing with very recently, it was literally 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can take longer, and it depends really on how deeply distressing the emotion is, how long the person has had issues with it. It may well be linked to other things. Sometimes you find a chain of events. So you deal with the event that's at the top of the chain, and that's the one that the client can remember, but you deal with that and the distress level is still there. So you actually go back in the case history. Well, what is still triggering that? And you might have to go back down the chain a few times to find the real root cause, which the client doesn't realize. We have to hunt for that. So that can be a session that takes a little bit longer, and it can sometimes take more than one session. But I always get my man.
Havening, is that to do with talking through a trauma, or does it work without going through the full story?
The amazing thing about havening is if you don't want to, you can do this process, the event havening, for instance, without disclosing any information. The important thing is that you activate that AMPA receptor that we've been talking about, and that's done by recalling the memory. You can do that internally by remembering it in your head, or, some people find it nice to actually talk about something.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the practitioner is concerned, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. As long as the client can recall the memory, the process is just as effective.
Okay. What kind of emotional triggers do people come to you with?
Do you know what? There's such a variety. Let me just see what I can think of off the top of my head. I had a client who had a very nasty accident coming off a horse, I hate to say it, and broken her leg. And as she was recovering, although the bone had set, she'd been signed off by her, what's the word for a bone surgeon? The guy at the hospital. So she'd been signed off by the hospital saying your leg is healed.
Mm.
She still had a fear that it wasn't strong enough to support her weight. So she wasn't walking properly. She was scared about getting back on a horse, but the horse had gone to another home because she wasn't able to look after it. Obviously, it was months that she was recovering, and she wanted to get her horse back, but she was scared of riding, which is natural. That's the brain. It's the brain's not broken. It's doing exactly what it's programmed to do. That was dangerous. Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
So we worked together. We spent a couple of weeks working on this. She had a few other issues as well. It's quite nice because as we started working on that one issue, other issues came to the surface. So we did quite a nice cleansing process with her, which she was really happy with. The results she was really happy with. And she bought a new horse that's, I think, is 17.2, and she's out happily riding again
Oh, great.
after the sessions. It was lovely. In fact, I thought, oh my goodness, she's getting on too early. I was actually scared for her, which was ridiculous. She's
Great.
a grown woman. It's her decision to ride or not to ride. I'd
Yeah.
given her the
Yeah, yeah.
confidence that she wanted to be able to get back on her horse, and it looks like she's having an amazing time. And then other situations, like the person I've spoken to very recently with a troubling memory, a sad memory, or, oh gosh, I had one lady for 60 years. She had a memory of something her father had done, and she carried anger about that situation for 60 years. And that was another one that happened within 5 minutes. She burst out crying, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've broken her. And she just said, all I feel now is compassion.
Oh,
And it was
yeah.
incredible, the change, to go
Yeah,
from
yeah.
60 years of anger to suddenly losing that. It's life
Yeah.
changing. It
Oh
really
God,
is.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So, I can think of an awful lot of examples, but I think those two are quite nice examples where there's been a very dramatic change. One took a while, and one was very, very quick. You can't predict when you're going. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I go into every session with curiosity. What's going to happen? And I think that's a great way of approaching things. Even if I know the client's story before I go into the session, I don't assume that we're going to be doing a certain technique or resolving until I speak to them and find out how they feel about things.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That like you say, it is literally life-changing when people have held on to things, or like the lady who was the rider, that she'd been prevented doing something that she absolutely adored and loved and was probably a
Yeah,
huge part of her life, and you
yeah,
gave her that back again.
yeah.
So can havening help with problems such as confidence or mental performance as well as all the trauma?
I've got a lovely story about confidence. I was at a weekend conference, and I was lucky enough to be able to offer my havening services to the delegates. I think there were about 200 people there. And I spoke to one lady who came into the room, and she was very demure and quiet. And when she told me she'd got four children, I was really surprised because I thought, I didn't even realize she could get married. She was so mousy. And then she said, "Oh, I'm really scared of speaking up in public." And anyway, so we had a session that seemed to go quite well. And then just that evening, we were doing an exercise. It's a couple of hundred people in the room. We were doing an exercise, and I think there were 30 people stood in a circle in the middle of the room. So everybody else was around the circle. And I was one of the people standing up. And as I said, I've got physical issues, and it got to the point where my knees were starting to go. And I said, I'm really sorry. Could somebody else step in for me? So there was a voice behind me. Yeah, I'll do it. It was this lady. I'm like, wow, not only has she shouted up in public
Yeah,
with a confident, clear voice, but she'd stood up in a crowd of 100 odd people and stood in this circle and taken part in something very, very public and open. So,
yeah,
again, a really dramatic change that was amazing to see. It was so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. How many sessions do people usually need?
it varies.
Yeah,
It depends. That's the classic answer to a lot of questions
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
our line of work. It depends. And you don't know until you start talking to somebody. You might book a set of 6 sessions, and after 4 sessions they say, I'm done. I'm done.
yeah,
I'll come back to you if I need any more.
yeah,
And then you've got, I've given you a couple of instances where 5 minutes has cleared a big problem. yeah, they may have other problems that need sorting, but so
Yeah.
it's really hard to predict, but
Yeah.
things can happen quite quickly.
Super. Super. So if somebody has tried lots of mindset and therapy techniques, then what would you say to somebody like that? Could havening be the answer?
I would suggest they give it a try. It's not going to hurt. Havening is not going to hurt. If you come into it with an open mind and perhaps explain to the practitioner that you're working with what you've gone through. But
Mm.
havening does actually sit alongside other modalities really, really nicely. I use NLP and hypnosis. I had a fantastic trainer for that. I think her name was Trace. And I've also spent 6 months training on EFT or tapping. A lot of people know it's tapping.
Yeah.
And when I go into a session, I don't know which I'm going to use, but they work along really nicely together. So if somebody perhaps is having a course of I say treatment, it's not treatment, you know what I mean, tapping sessions, for instance, or NLP sessions, the havening would actually work really nicely alongside that. And I found when I was doing the training in the tapping, they would be dealing with an issue. And, you know, my brain was screaming out, Havening would do this. It would do this quite quickly, you know. The tapping process was effective, but it was quite involved and long-winded. And I was just, well, couldn't wait to get back to my own practice where I could choose what to use and say, okay, that's an event that needs havening. We can resolve that in, you know, in less than an hour.
Yeah. 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 A lot of havening, now I'm sure it's not all, I only have a very superficial knowledge of havening,
Yeah.
but some of havening requires that you kind of cuddle yourself, don't you? You sort of like,
Yes.
I'm trying to describe it for people who are listening, but you sort of hug
Okay.
yourself
Yeah.
and have your hands going up and down your tops of your arms, or there's
Yeah.
another one where you slide your two palms against
So
one another.
there are
Yeah.
three basic movements, and they represent the kind of feeling that you might have got from your mother when you were born
Ah, okay.
or as a very young child. So the first is the hug. So you would put your right hand on your left shoulder, left hand on your right shoulder, and then stroke down to your elbow. Lift the hands off, put your hands back on your shoulder, and stroke down again. And you can use different pressures, speeds. You can experiment to see what feels good. The next one is face havening. And you see a lot of people will stroke somebody's face when they're in distress. And you might see people when they get anxious or in a situation of real danger, they'll put their head in their hands.
Yeah.
You know, when you're upset, you put your head in your hands. So
Yeah.
they're actually self-soothing because this is going to produce delta waves. So you literally put your hand on your face with perhaps your fingers at the top of your forehead and just stroke your hands down your face. Okay. Or if you've got glasses on, for instance, you don't want to take your glasses off, you can put your fingers either side of your nose and then just draw a line under your eyes across your cheekbones and just keep repeating that. And then the third one, and I call this my emergency first aid kit. And now that you know about it, or you'll know about it in a minute, watch people when you're out and about and you'll see people doing this. It's such a natural thing to do when you're bored, tired, stressed, anxious, whatever. And that is a simple, put your hands together and rub your palms together. It's as simple as that. And you can do this. So I'm sat at my desk now with my elbows on my desk and I'm rubbing my hands together. If I was in a business meeting doing this, nobody's going to take a second look at me. It
No.
looks like I'm just a little bit bored. Or if I'm perhaps
Yeah.
a bit self-conscious, you know, if I'm getting really angry at somebody across the
Yeah.
table, I can be
Yeah.
doing this. Calm,
Yeah.
calm. Or I can put I can rest my elbows on my legs under the table and do the havening on my
Yeah.
hands underneath
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
desk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can go into the loo if you're stuck at work. Go into the loo and do a bit of havening and deep breathing. It's fantastic. But yeah, so watch people when you're out and about rubbing their hands together. You'll see it more often than you imagine. And again, it's a natural thing for people to do because their body knows what's going to help them. I love
Mm.
seeing it. I'm like, you're havening.
Yeah, you don't know it, but you are.
And you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the hand havening is a favourite. You can use those 3 movements in any order for any length of time. So you could stroke your arms, stroke your face, do the hands, and go around like that. Or you could spend 5 minutes doing your arms and then 5 minutes on your hands.
Right.
If you have any issues, maybe you've got one arm in a sling, you can actually grab a cuddly toy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I have my little friend here. I'm showing Tracy a very fluffy donkey. And you can stroke a cuddly toy. I'm stroking a donkey. You know what I mean. You know what
Yeah.
I mean.
Lovely.
So anybody that has issues with doing the havening movements, you can do this on a soft toy or a cushion. You know,
Do you
some
think
people have
that's why, when we stroke pets, do you think that's also kind of
absolutely,
havening-ish?
absolutely. That produces oxytocin, which obviously is a soothing chemical. Yeah, so that really helps. I do a form of havening on my horse. Jake is very like, oh, just get off, mother. He's very, very self-assured. He doesn't need fussing. Howie's completely different. He's a big, soft, wet. An animal communicator was questioning his sexuality. He's a ladies' man, but a ladies' man, if you know what I mean. But what I do is I stand by his shoulder. I lean my chest against his shoulder. I put my right hand under his girth area, around the top of his leg, and I put my left arm under his neck. And then I just breathe. I breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and just do that slowly and just hold him. And he relaxes, and it's so fantastic to see. And I consider that a form of havening.
Yeah.
He gets relief from that. And it's just something I developed. And there are other practitioners who've been experimenting with havening on animals.
Wow.
It's obviously a bit harder to measure because you can't ask your horse, are you feeling less anxious now, lad?
Yeah.
You can see it from their demeanour and their breathing and, the facial expression. But it works beautifully. If the farrier's there and he's starting to get a little bit wound up, I just stand by his shoulder, hold his leg, his neck, and it works beautifully.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a curveball question then. So
Go on, then.
You've explained to us the 3 types of touch. What happens if somebody doesn't like to be touched? Can they still do havening?
So again, this is where the cuddly toy or a cushion will work. You can do havening, self-havening. So I've described self-havening. You can also use facilitated havening, where somebody else will do the havening touch on you, obviously with your permission. I've seen that demonstrated quite a few times. It's not something I use myself because most of my work is over Zoom.
Mm.
So that is an option. The other thing you can do is you can imagine the touch.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Your brain doesn't know the difference between something that you imagine and something that's real, which is why we get ourselves into all kinds of messes. So I've used havening, imaginary havening, when I've been driving, and you get these crazy drivers on the road that do something stupid and they make your heart race and think, oh my goodness, nearly had an accident. So I'll just breathe and I'll just imagine doing the havening touch, and it works.
Oh, wow. I love it.
It's incredible. There was a patient, I heard a story from another practitioner about a patient who was on a ventilator, was able to hear and know what was going on, but wasn't able to move or obviously speak because they're on a ventilator. And they could imagine the havening touch and use that imaginary havening to help relax them into that situation that they were in.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's incredible. So versatile.
So what's your big vision for havening then? What's coming up for you?
My personal vision and my personal goal, I've mentioned earlier my struggles with weight. The dieting industry is just a money pit, and it's our money that's going into the pit. I think the statistic is that 5% of diets work and the benefits last long term. So that means 95% of people who go to dieting clubs, pay for dieting services online, are going to fail. They're going to waste their money. When you fail a diet, you have shame, guilt, distress at the fact that you're off the wagon again. It's just a horrible feeling. I'm useless. I'm never going to lose weight. So the last 3 years I've been studying this. I've worked with an awful lot of different people who are concentrating on weight loss. And I have got to the point where food no longer has a voice. I don't feel the need to snack between meals. I can eat a normal meal. If I get hungry, I will eat. When I'm full, I stop eating, even if there's food left on the plate. Luckily, I've got a husband and a dog who both are slim, so they will happily eat my leftovers. I sometimes force feed my husband if he's dished up a big meal. Can't eat it all, you've got to eat it. But I think it's the food not having a voice, which is the miraculous thing for me.
Yeah.
You go shopping and you buy a bar of chocolate and you put it in the cupboard and it calls to you. Like,
Yeah.
chocolate,
Yeah.
there's chocolate here, ooh, when are you going to eat me? And you take it out the cupboard and you start eating it and you can't stop until it's all gone, because you've got to stop that voice. So now I have chocolate in the house. I was given some chocolate at Christmas and it's my favourite chocolate. My daughter bought it for me, which is very sweet. And I put it on the side in the kitchen, the box of chocolates. And I could see it every time I walked into the kitchen. And my reaction was, oh yeah, I've got to eat those. It wasn't, oh, my favourite.
Wow.
I know. And eventually I opened the box just because I didn't want, it sounds silly, I didn't want to let my daughter down. I appreciated her gift and I wanted to appreciate the chocolates. They're individually wrapped, which is really, really nice. So I can take one from the kitchen into the front room. I can sit and eat it in front of the telly without a problem. And it's brilliant. I've woken up my body to how it was as a baby. I don't know if you've been around parents with young children, with babies. Oh my goodness, the baby hasn't eaten today, it's going to starve. And then the next day, oh, the baby's not stopped eating, I don't know, it's overeating.
Yeah.
We're born with that instinctive knowledge. If we're healthy, obviously, if children are sick, it might be different. But we're born instinctively knowing how much to eat, when to stop eating. And we lose that, when we have parents who give us breakfast, lunch and dinner. So we start overriding those natural signals. And I'm really going off on a tangent. So how does Havening come into this and what's my vision? My vision is, having spent those 3 years and resolved my disordered eating patterns, is to offer that to other people. And I see Havening's been a big part of that. And I see Havening as being a big part of the solution for other people. So I've created a program to help people rewrite their mindset around food. And I would love to share that with people and then have people who are interested sign up to train as a Havening practitioner and to go off and spread the word so that we can gradually take over from this awful, nasty, insidious dieting industry and stop them stealing our money and wasting our time with false hopes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's it. That's my vision. Sorry, it was a bit long-winded, wasn't it?
No, I think you're going to achieve it on determination alone. Yeah. Like you say, if you can get rid of the constant dieting and all the other things that come along with it, then the feeling of failure of having, like you say, gone back to eating how you used to eat, then I mean, that's incredible. That's so powerful. So
I found it amazing that I will approach my relationship with food now with curiosity. I mentioned curiosity before, it's a big thing. I remember one Friday a couple of weeks ago where I just felt like I needed to eat and eat and eat. And I thought, I didn't stop myself eating. I thought, well, if that's what my body wants. So I ate and ate and ate. And I thought, this is really weird. Why does my body need to eat so much? But I just surrendered to it. You know, that's what my body wants. I don't have guilt or shame or worry about food anymore. I just accept what the situation is. And then the next day, I hardly ate anything. And I thought, I'm like that baby again,
That's
that my
incredible.
body
Yeah.
says, I need food today. And I'm lucky enough that I work from home, so I can choose to eat or not to eat. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not in an office where you've got your lunch hour, and if you want to eat in midday, you
Yeah.
have to eat
Yeah.
it at that time. So that does help me. But yeah, that's been really interesting. Like I say, everything I approach with curiosity, and you go, oh, that's interesting.
So if somebody listening is interested in your Havening coaching, or somebody thinks, oh, I'd like to help people like Sue does, I want to train in it, what's the next step for them?
I would suggest that they log on to my website, which is very easy, findingyourhaven.co.uk. And there's a little button that says book a call. It's completely free, no obligation. You can chat to me about anything, even if you want to chat about the weather. I'd love to hear from you. So any questions about what you've heard today, anything that you might want to ask me, I've got this issue. Do you think Havening could help? Please get in touch and we can have a nice chat and see where it goes.
Fabulous. I shall put that website down into the description box. Where else can people find you? Are you on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else?
I am on Facebook. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so I haven't really got my head around Instagram yet. Facebook, if you search for Finding Your Haven, you'll find my business page. And try to regularly post on there and put some educational stuff, some fun stuff. Yeah, so that's
Great,
enjoy that.
great. Well, I hope people do find you and find their own haven, as it were.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
That's been so interesting, so fascinating to
Yeah.
learn a little bit more about this fabulous technique that I think is going to help a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure and it's lovely to see you again.
You too. You too.
Thank you.